Okay, just before we start the lesson, I thought it'd be a good idea to build on the previous lesson that we looked at of finding a percentage of an amount. Here's a bit of a starter to try and test how much you can remember. So just remember that of just means times, okay? And when we take the percentage, we've just got to change it into a fraction or a decimal. So it could be 40 out of 100 times 24, or in this case, you could change this to 0.6, which is 60% as a decimal, times 250. So have a crack at these questions and see how you get on. So pause the video now. Okay, hopefully you gave that a go, and here come the answers. Oh, too far. So you can have a go at marking it. So today's lesson is about a common calculation looking at a percentage increase, which is really important, especially if you guys are starting to get part-time jobs and people are talking about increasing pay. You want to be making sure that you're getting the right amount. So a percentage increase is a particularly important calculation. So looking at that, we've got Fireman Sam here, which is a favourite of my son. And his current wages are 450. I'm not sure whether that's a week or a fortnight, but he's been told he's getting a 1% pay rise, which in other words means that he's going to get 1% more. So what is 1%? So we can work out of 450, and we can do that by changing that to a fraction, 100 times 450. That gives us the answer $4.50. So he's going to get an extra $4.50. It's extra $4. Sorry, an extra $4.50 on his current wages. So how do we calculate the new wage? Is that all we have to do is add that $4.50 on. So his new wage is going to be $4.59. Now, rather than dividing this into two different parts and having to work that out 1% and then add it on, there is a way that you can do it all in one calculation. And the way to do it is to think about what the increase is and add that on to 100%. So because we're getting 1, we're adding 100% onto that. So in fact, what we're doing is timesing it and working out what 101% is of the original wage. And if you do that on your calculator, what you end up getting is 459.50, which is the answer, rather than having to do all the different calculations. Now, when you simplify 100 plus 1% and divide it by 100 and all those sorts of things, that's actually represented as the number 100.01. Now, the key thing to remember is that 1% as a decimal is 0.001. So that there is the decimal of the increase. The 1 represents what you started with. So because we're increasing by 1%, it's 101% of what we started with. So it's a way that we can try and make the calculation a lot quicker. Now this number here, this number that we multiply by, is funnily enough called the multiplier. So as an example, further example of looking at this increasing by a multiplier, we're going to go to a Cosmore, which is a store. open 24 hours for your convenience. And there's a series of products that are getting a increase in price. The first thing I want you to do is go through and work out what the multiplier is that they are going to get increased by. So what do I have to times the Nescafe by to increase it by 10%? So just a reminder about the multiplier is that we take the 100 plus the percentage increase and divide it by 100. Now, as a decimal, that would be 1 plus whatever the decimal is of the percentage. So as example, our Nescafe here is going up by 10%. So the multiplier would be 100 plus 10%, or 100% plus 10%, divided by 100. Now, if I do that calculation on my calculator, what I end up with is an answer of 1.1. So the multiplier is 1.1. Now, if that's the easiest way you can find to do it, use that calculation there to be able to work out our answer. Or if you're happy just to go straight to the decimals, then do that as well. Okay, so just have a quick think, look at the PG tips and think, what would the multiplier be for 15% being added on to the $3.60? Okay, if you've got a number in your head, or write it down. If you're going to guess, let's have a look at what, calculate what it should be. So it's 100 plus 15% divided by 100, which put that into our calculator, and we end up with 1.15. Okay, so this one here is 1.1. This is multiplied by 1.15, which kind of makes sense because if I put an extra 0 on there, that's the decimal 10%. That's 15% I added to 1. So have a go. Firstly, get the multipliers for all of them, and then and then we'll look at what the increased price is. Okay, so you should have go trying to find the multiplier. Let's take a look at the answers. So you can see the Nescafe is 10%, so we're going to have to times it by 1.1. PG Tips, we have to times it by 1.15. That's the ones we've already worked out. Because I can't believe it's not butter, it's going up by 30%, we times it by 1.3. The tomato soup is going up by 50%, so we times it by 1.5. The Cadbury's is going up by 20%, so we times it by 1.2. The crisps, we times it by 1.4 because it's 40%. And the pizza is going up by 75%, so times by 1.75. The last one's going up, the yogurt's going up by 5%, so we times it by 1.05. Now, if we do that, so hopefully you got the multipliers correct. So now that even if you didn't, now that we do have the multipliers correct, pause the video and go through and with the prices work out what the new increased price is going to be. So pause the video now. Okay, hopefully you gave that a go. So Nescafe 160 times 1.1 gives us 176. So 360 times 1.15, so we end up with 414. 150 times 1.3, 195. So the Heinz tomato soup, 64 cents. times 1.5, 96 cents. The chocolate, 130 times 1.12, sorry, 1.2, it gives me $1.56. The crisps, 260 times 1.4 gives $3.64. The pizza, $2.20 times 1.75 gives us $3.85. And the yogurt, we're times it by 1.05, 380 gives us $3.99. So that you can see there that by having a percentage, we can increase each of those items. So just to summarize what we've been looking at, is that if you have an original quantity, or the quantity we start with, and we're increasing it by a percentage, okay, we take that percentage, divide it by 100, and add it to 1, and times that to find our new increased quantity. Okay, you'll notice that there's an arrow at the bottom that's blank at the moment. That's for a future lesson to look at. So there's a task in the OneNote looking at percentage increase. Give those questions a go, and don't forget to upload your work so that I can see it.